Guys, Predator turned 39 years old this year. 39! Which is honestly kind of wild to me because the movie itself is a year older than I am. And you know what? I've probably watched it over 100 times at this point. To be completely honest, I love the genre of science fiction. So much that I've named some of my dogs after characters from these movies. Ripley was named after the alien killing badass Ellen Ripley. And I currently have a dog now that's named Dutch, which means for the next 45 minutes or so, while I'm recording this episode, I'm probably going to have one very confused 100-pound Weimaraner wandering around this house wondering why Dad keeps dramatically saying his name. So, if you hear the sound of toenails clacking down the hallway, that's not the Predator. That's just Dutch. To my point, apparently these movies got their hooks into me pretty early. And what's funny is, despite being obsessed with Arnold Schwarzenegger movies as a kid, I somehow missed Predator for years. Now, to be fair, I have a pretty good idea why. You see, if my dad was watching TV and Buffy the Vampire Slayer or Farscape or Stargate SG-1 was coming on, dude, Predator was losing that fight every single time. I'm serious. Sarah Michelle Gellar and David Boreanaz was about to derail my entire evening. But one weekend, USA Network did one of those Arnold Schwarzenegger birthday marathons. And to tell you the truth, I genuinely miss those. Does anyone else remember those? Cable television back then had absolutely no chill. It was basically, "Happy birthday, Arnold, and congratulations, America. You belong to this Austrian man until Monday." I'm talking Commando, Total Recall, The Running Man, Kindergarten Cop, and Predator. Just Schwarzenegger movies from sunrise until your parents told you to go to bed. And that's when I finally sat down and watched Predator from beginning to end. Now, to be fair, Predator isn't exactly hiding the ball. The movie literally opens in outer space. You see Earth and you see a ship, and you see something detach from it and fall into the atmosphere. So from the word go, we, the audience, well, we know. Okay, alien. There's an alien in this movie. Cool. But then Predator does something really smart. It spends the next 45 minutes making you forget. Because suddenly we're hanging out with Arnold Schwarzenegger, Carl Weathers, Jesse Ventura, Bill Duke, Shane Black, Sonny Landham. Big muscles, big guns, even bigger explosions. There's a CIA guy everyone hates. There's an epic handshake so powerful it almost shifts the Earth off its axis. And eventually, you just stop thinking about that spaceship you saw at the beginning. And you start thinking you might just be watching the sequel to Commando. And as a kid, Predator was super easy. It was simply machine gun go brrr, Arnold cool. Jesse Ventura is carrying enough ammunition to overthrow a moderately stable government. Carl Weathers and Arnold Schwarzenegger nearly dislocating each other's shoulders in what might genuinely be the greatest handshake in all of cinema. Bill Duke even looks like he could bench press my truck. Everything is explosions. Everything is muscles. Everything is awesome. And then there's a scene, just a little scene, about 10 seconds or so, and very easy to miss. Mac calls Dillon over, tells him to turn around, and pulls out his combat knife. And for a split second, you think, oh shit, Bill Duke is about to stab Apollo Creed. Instead, he kills a scorpion. Dillon gives him a look, says thanks, and Mac kind of shrugs it off and says, anytime. Simple, right? Done. End of scene. At least, that's what I thought. Because a few minutes later, Dutch's team leaves, the music changes, the camera changes, and immediately you know something just isn't right. Because now we're looking through thermal vision. Something else's eyes, something moving through the jungle, watching, studying, learning. And as it's moving through the brush, it's practicing, repeating things it's heard. Mechanical, artificial, not quite right. trying to understand human speech, trying to understand our voices. Like it's trying our language on for size. Experimenting, learning. And then it finds the scorpion and picks it up, studies it. And you watch the little body lose the last of its heat in its hand. And then, perfectly, effortlessly, exactly like Bill Duke, it says, no distortion, no weird cadence, no robotic hiccup, just Bill Duke. And dude, that blew my mind because that was the exact moment little Nate realized, oh, this isn't just an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. These dudes are being hunted by something smart, patient, curious, and maybe most terrifying of all, something that's learning. And 39 years later, I still think Predator absolutely kicks ass. So, how about we talk about it? Hey, and welcome back to the Average Joe Nerdcast. I'm Nate, your resident Average Joe, certified rabbit hole explorer, and card-carrying Arnold Schwarzenegger enthusiast. And today, we're talking all things Predator. And we're celebrating because it turned 39 years old this year. And honestly, I just wanted an excuse to talk about one of my favorite movies of all time. Now, fair warning, this isn't going to be some deep film school breakdown. Trust me when I say there are people on YouTube infinitely smarter than me that can tell you what lens John McTiernan used for every single shot of this film. That's not what this is. This is basically me sitting down and talking about why Predator still works for me after watching it for damn near my entire life. And what's funny is, Predator has changed every single time that I've watched it. Not necessarily because the movie has changed. The movie has been sitting there being awesome since 1987. I changed. As a guy in his 20s, I became a complete Predator lore goblin. I wanted to know where these things came from, how long they'd been visiting Earth, what their culture might have looked like, what other civilizations that they've hunted. And now, at the age of 38, I mostly just appreciate how incredibly well made this movie is. From the pacing to the atmosphere, the tension, the confidence, the absolute refusal to over-explain anything. And honestly, I think that's one of the reasons Predator has stuck around for almost 4 decades. It trusts you as the audience. It gives you just enough mystery, just enough breadcrumbs, and then it lets your imagination do all the heavy lifting. And apparently that worked out pretty well because here I am, 38 years old, talking into a microphone about a movie I've probably watched over 100 times now, and somehow still finding new things to appreciate. And if you've never seen Predator before, I am genuinely excited for you because you are about to go on one hell of a ride. So, let's head into the jungle. Now, as a kid, Predator was pretty straightforward. Predator was not some nuanced exploration of masculinity. Predator was not a meditation on hunting. It wasn't a subversion of action movie tropes. Predator was, like I have so lovingly put it multiple times now, machine gun go brrr. That's it. That was the whole review. 10 out of 10, no notes, because just think about what little Nate is seeing. Arnold Schwarzenegger at arguably peak Schwarzenegger. Carl Weathers, Apollo Creed himself, Jesse Ventura, Bill Duke, Sonny Landham, Shane Black. Just an absolute murderer's row of dudes that look like they eat dumbbells for breakfast. And then you get one of the greatest introductions in all of movie history.
Dillon! You son of a bitch.
The handshake, the biceps, the smile. I genuinely think that handshake contains more testosterone than my entire 8 years in the Army. And the funny thing is, Predator spends the first 20 or 30 minutes convincing you these guys are absolutely untouchable. Dutch and his team don't walk into scenes. They arrive. They're professionals, confident, competent. They're joking. They're talking shit. Everybody clearly respects Dutch, even if no one particularly likes Dillon. Because, let's be honest, no one likes the CIA guy. Not Dutch, not Mac, not Blaine, not Billy. Hell, to be honest, I don't even think Dillon likes Dillon. And then we get to Hopper, or more accurately, what's left of Jim Hopper, because this is where Predator starts turning the screws. Dutch clearly respected Hopper immediately. This isn't some random soldier. This is a Green Beret at a Fort Bragg. This is someone Dutch knows, someone Dutch trusted, someone Dutch considers capable. And they find him hanging upside down and skinned alive, turned into a macabre jungle decor. And suddenly, the entire vibe changes. Billy starts tracking, finding signs, US-issued army boots, rucks, tracks coming in, no tracks going out. And right there, Predator plants the first real seed. Something doesn't fit. Something isn't quite right here. But at this point, everyone still thinks the gorillas did it. And honestly, fair. I mean, if I found my buddy hanging upside down in a tree looking like he lost an argument with a cheese grater, I'd probably want some payback too, which is perfect because that's exactly what Blaine says. Payback time. And my friends, what follows is one of the coolest camp raids ever committed to film. As a kid, pure cinema. I wasn't looking for themes or symbolism or a metaphor. There's grenade launchers, explosions, people flying backwards. It was peak 80s excess. And you know what? I loved every second of it. And the best part? Predator wants you to love it because it's distracting you. It's making you comfortable, convincing you that you're watching Commando. So when Hawkins disappears and then Blaine gets dropped, the entire movie shifts genres. It works. Because for just a little while, you forgot there was a spaceship in the opening scene, too. And I think this is where Predator goes from being a really good action movie to becoming something else entirely. Because after the camp raid, Dutch's team wins. Mission accomplished. Bad guy's dead. We've secured a hostage. Time to go home, right? Hit those credits. Except Predator isn't interested in ending. Predator is just getting started. Because like I said, Hawkins disappears, and honestly, I did like Hawkins. Shane Black doesn't get a ton of screen time, but he's the guy keeping everyone loose. He's the joke guy, the storyteller, the guy telling absolutely terrible jokes to Billy in the helicopter. And then, he's just gone. But Anna sees something. Movement. The jungle moves. And then she says one of my favorite lines in the movie. The jungle. It just came alive and took him. And honestly, at this point, if I'm Dutch, I'm still not buying it. The jungle didn't just come alive. Someone killed Hawkins. Then they grabbed his body. But that's not what Anna says. Because Anna already understands something the rest of the group doesn't. She grew up with stories. Stories about a demon who makes trophies of men. Stories about hunters. Stories about men disappearing. Stories about finding skinned bodies. Stories passed down from people who had apparently been dealing with predator nonsense for a lot longer than Dutch realizes. And then Blaine dies. And talk about an entrance. Predator introduces itself by putting a hole the size of Kentucky through Jesse Ventura's chest, and immediately, Mac changes. And Bill Duke absolutely kills this because Mac isn't just angry. Mac is grieving, he's obsessed, and he's running on fumes. He just watched his best friend get taken out, and he's looking for someone to blame, anyone. So he sees movement and picks up the minigun and opens fire. And then everyone opens fire. And what follows might genuinely be one of the most absurdly awesome scenes ever put to film. An entire Special Forces rescue team turns the jungle into mulch. There's trees exploding. The minigun's doing what it's supposed to do. Grenades are going off. Thousands upon thousands of rounds. Enough ammunition to invade a small nation. And then, dead silence. Dutch sends Pancho and Billy out. And when Pancho comes back, the tension is building. And he says, not a thing. Not a fucking trace. No blood. No bodies. We hit nothing. And dude, tens across the board. No notes, because Arnold's reaction sells everything. He's not panicking. He's just confused. Trying to process what he just heard. Because Dutch knows exactly how much firepower they just dumped into those woods. No one survives that. Nothing survives that. And yet, apparently, something did. And Anna notices something too. Glowing green blood. And smears it onto her pant leg. And starts talking about stories from her village. Something that takes trophies, skins men, cuts off their heads. And suddenly, Predator isn't an action movie anymore. Predator is becoming something of a campfire story. And Dutch's team, they're realizing they're not the hunters anymore. They're the story someone else is going to tell. And I think one of the smartest things Predator does is Billy. Billy isn't some mystical woods wizard. He's a tracker. That's his whole job. He reads signs, patterns, and movement. He understands the jungle, and throughout the movie, you can kind of watch him slowly lose confidence. At first, it's little things. Hopper's team, tracks coming in, no tracks coming out. Dutch notices it too. Something doesn't quite fit, but Billy doesn't have an answer. Then comes Hawkins, gone. Blaine, dead. The entire jungle firing squad incident, and somehow nothing. No body, no blood, no explanation. And then Anna starts talking. She says, the jungle, it came alive and it took him. But no one's listening. But Billy starts paying attention, maybe a little more than anyone else. Because Billy doesn't need mythology. Billy needs evidence, tracks, movement, patterns. And Predator keeps taking those away. At one point, Dutch catches Billy just staring into the trees. And when he questions Mac about Billy's behavior, Mac says, I don't know, Major, he's been acting squirrely all morning. So he catches up to Billy and asks, what do you see? And he tells him, there's something in those trees. And then you get another POV swap, and you're seeing everything through the eyes of the Predator, and he's there, and he's watching them. And then Billy just shrugs and says, maybe it was nothing. And you know what? I love that because Billy is still trying to rationalize all of this. He's trying to make it fit, trying to put it into a box, trying to understand what he's seeing. And then things just keep getting worse. And after Blaine's death, they have a moment to talk, and they get Pancho to ask Anna again, what did she see? And she repeats herself, the jungle, it just came alive and took him. And Dillon, he's having none of it. He calls bullshit. So they ask Mac, what did he see? Who hit them? And he says, I don't know. All I saw was one. I saw those eyes. And they just disappeared. And Major, I drew down and fired directly at him. I capped off 200 rounds in the minigun. There's nothing on this earth that could have survived that. And Pancho looks at Billy and says, Billy, you know something. What is it? And Billy looks at Pancho and says something I genuinely think is one of the most underrated moments in the entire movie. I'm scared, Pancho. To which Pancho immediately rejects. Bullshit. You ain't afraid of no man. And Billy says, there's something out there waiting for us. And it ain't no man. We're all gonna die. Dude, that line works because Billy earned it. Billy isn't telling everyone he knows what the predator is. Billy is admitting something much, much scarier. He doesn't. Billy reads woods for a living. He is basically Appalachian Batman. The dude can probably look at mud and figure out exactly what you had for breakfast, and for the first time in the entire movie, he has nothing. No tracks, no explanation, no pattern, no certainty, just fear. And honestly, I think that's why that scene still lands 39 years later. Because if the guy whose entire identity is understanding the woods suddenly looks at me and says, brother, I got nothing, then I'm getting my ass back on the chopper. The CIA can mail me my paycheck. Dude, I'm out. And what's really cool about Predator is Billy saying they're all going to die is not a prophecy. It's not mysticism or special knowledge. It's a man finally admitting that he's completely out of answers. And to me, that's terrifying. Now, hold on. We're going to take a quick detour because I need to talk about one of my favorite sequences in the entire movie. Mac and Dillon's last stand, because by this point, Predator isn't just hunting anymore. It's messing with people. It's been studying and adapting. It's kind of trolling at this point. Billy's scared, Pancho's hurt at this point, Anna gave her spiel about the demons, Dutch is trying to hold everything together, and Mac is barely holding it together. Mac is no longer sleeping or joking. Bill Duke spends the entire back half of this movie looking exactly like someone who hasn't slept since the Reagan administration. And honestly, flowers to Bill Duke because he kills this. Because Mac isn't just angry, he's grieving and obsessing. He's trying to make sense of losing his best friend, and Dillon comes up with a plan. Basically, I'm going to flank this son of a bitch. I'm going to draw him out. You get him. And watching it now, you realize they've already lost before they've even set this plan into motion because they just did exactly what the Predator wanted. They've split up. The squad that spent the entire movie operating as a cohesive unit is no longer a unit. They're isolated, separated, vulnerable. So Mac's in his position. He's watching, waiting, trying to spot movement. And then, plasma cannon to the head. Gone. No final goodbyes, just gone. And Dillon sees Mac's body. And the Predator does something incredibly mean. It starts screwing with him. From somewhere in the jungle, he hears Mac say, over here. And dude, that is so cool. Because Predator remembers, it listens, it studies, it catalogs. Earlier in the movie, Mac called Dillon over, saved him from getting tagged by that scorpion. Remember? Thanks. Anytime. Now, Mac is dead, and Predator is using his voice. And not because it needs to. I think it's because it wanted to. It's curious, maybe even amused. It knows exactly what it's doing, and Dillon turns, looking, listening, and then for the first time, he really lays eyes on it. Not tracks or stories or mythology, no shimmering in the distance. He sees exactly what Anna described. The jungle comes alive. It's the Predator moving while cloaked, circling him, closing the distance, and then one of my favorite shots in the entire movie. A close-up, the arm blades extending, and my friends, game over. Predator guts Dillon and lifts this grown-ass man completely off the ground. And at that point, there are no more theories, no more half-ass mountain boys, no more gorillas, no more CIA explanations. There's no more rationalizing it. Just an alien hunter standing in the jungle dismantling one of the coolest groups of action heroes ever assembled. And honestly, I think that's why this sequence sticks with me, because Predator isn't just stronger. It isn't just faster, it's smarter. It's isolated them, studied them, manipulated them, beat them using their own habits. And to me, that's terrifying, but also cool as all hell. And maybe that's why Predator still works, because every time you think you've got it figured out, it finds another way to surprise you. And I think this is where Predator does something really, really clever. Dutch stops trying to figure out what the Predator is and starts figuring out how it thinks, because at this point, Billy is dead, Mac is dead, Dillon is dead, and Poncho is gravely injured. And Dutch has seen enough. He knows this isn't a man. He knows it's not a guerrilla unit, and it's no longer some CIA op gone sideways. It's something else entirely. And then, Predator makes a mistake. Or maybe not a mistake. Maybe it's arrogance, overconfidence. Maybe it just simply enjoys the game, because Anna reaches for Poncho's weapon and Dutch stops her. No, leave it. He didn't kill you because you wasn't armed. No sport. And dude, that's it. That's the moment. Dutch has finally begun to understand. This thing isn't killing randomly. It has rules. It has preferences. It has a code. It's hunting. It's collecting trophies. It's looking for challenge. And honestly, that's fascinating, because Predator could have just killed Anna easily, but it doesn't, because she isn't participating in the hunt. She's not prey. She's just an observer. And Dutch starts adapting. He stops thinking like a soldier and starts becoming a student. He's watching, learning, experimenting, trying to understand his opponent. And then comes one of my favorite accidental discoveries from childhood. Mud! Lots of mud! Now, as a kid, this scene ruled. Arnold Schwarzenegger covered head to toe in mud, screaming into the jungle. Peak cinema. No notes. Still goes hard 39 years later. I refuse criticism. But watching it now, you appreciate what Dutch is doing. He's paying attention. The Predator couldn't see him. The thermal vision couldn't pick him up. The mud worked, and suddenly the playing field changes. Because Dutch isn't stronger or faster or better equipped. He's just willing to learn. And honestly, I think that's why I've always liked Dutch. Because by the end of Predator, he's not the same man from the helicopter handshake scene. He's not invincible or untouchable. He's just muddy, bleeding, exhausted, and improvising. He's building traps, using logs, the vines. He's using his environment. And for the first time in the entire movie, Predator isn't completely in control anymore. Because Dutch finally understands what game they're playing. And now, Predator has to play by its own rules. And my friends, I love that, because Dutch doesn't beat the Predator by becoming stronger. He beats it by becoming a better student. And honestly, I think that's pretty damn cool. And eventually, Dutch wins. Well, sort of. Because honestly, I don't know if he wins is the word I'd use. I mean, he survives, absolutely. He adapts, learns the rules, builds his Home Alone traps, and turns into an angry Austrian caveman, and then drops a giant log on an alien trophy hunter, as one does. But that's not the moment that sticks out to me. It's what happens after, because Dutch finally sees it. It's not cloaked anymore. It's not hiding. It's just there. It's broken, defeated, and dying. And Dutch looks at it and says, "What the hell are you?" And I love that line, because I've never interpreted that as Dutch talking trash. I've always read it as more curious. Think about what this man has just been through. His entire team is wiped out. His friends are dead. He just survived an alien hunter and discovered humanity apparently isn't alone in the universe. And unfortunately, one of the species we share the universe with enjoys hunting people for sport. Listen, I'd have questions too. But the interesting thing is, the Predator looks back at him and says, "What the hell are you?" And honestly, I've always loved that, because maybe for the first time in its entire existence, the Predator hunted something it just didn't understand. It's hunted soldiers, Green Berets, Special Forces guys, trackers, killers, people who spent their entire careers being the apex predator. And then it met Dutch. And Dutch refused to quit. He adapted, learned, he survived. And maybe that's why the predator repeats the question back, not because it's mocking him, because it genuinely just does not understand. Maybe for the first time, it found prey that stopped acting like prey and became a hunter. And honestly, I think that's a pretty cool interpretation. And then the predator starts laughing, and another quick little trivia nugget, that laugh, that's Sonny Landham's laugh from earlier in the movie. After Hawkins tells him a joke earlier in the film that takes him a solid 10 seconds too long to land. The predator was recording that entire time, and it saves it for this exact moment. One final twist of the knife, one last reminder, and then insurance policy, miniature nuke. And Dutch barely survives. But when the chopper finally arrives and Dutch climbs aboard, this is the part that hits me differently now. Because Dutch lives. Of course he does. He's Arnold Schwarzenegger. But just look at him. And I mean really look at him. Does he look happy? Does he look victorious? Does he look like he conquered something? No. Dude looks exhausted. Like he hasn't slept in 3 weeks. Like he just spent an hour and 40 minutes having the worst day imaginable. And honestly, I think Arnold deserves flowers for that scene. Because Dutch doesn't say anything. He doesn't celebrate or kiss the girl. He just sits there, covered in mud and beat to shit, trying to process the fact that his entire team is dead. He just survived a miniature nuclear explosion and has discovered aliens are real. And apparently, they're kind of assholes. And I've always liked that because Predator doesn't end with triumph. It ends with survival. Dutch made it out, but he didn't walk away untouched. And I think that's probably why I appreciate the ending more now than I did as a kid. As a kid, Arnold won. Yeah, cool, awesome. Roll those credits. But now I just kind of look at Dutch and think, damn, dude, you had a really bad day. And you know what? Before we shut this whole thing down and get out of here, I kind of think we got to hand out some more flowers because, dude, a lot of people absolutely cooked on this movie. First and foremost, John McTiernan. Brother, you cooked, and I mean you absolutely cooked, because Predator should not work as well as it does. On paper, it's kind of ridiculous. Arnold Schwarzenegger, Carl Weathers, Jesse Ventura, Bill Duke, Shane Black, Sonny Landham, an alien trophy hunter with dreadlocks, mandibles, shoulder-mounted plasma cannons, and a seriously questionable sense of humor. And somehow McTiernan balances all of it. The macho action movie stuff, the one-liners, the explosions, the camp raid, the giant muscles, the absolute overdose of testosterone. And then slowly, almost imperceptibly, starts tightening the screws. And by the time you realize what's happening, the rug has already been pulled out from under you. You're no longer watching a peak 80s action movie anymore. You're watching a horror movie. And honestly, from amateur filmmaker Nate, no notes, 10s across the board, my guy, perfect. Then there's the Thomas brothers, because holy hell, what an absolute killer idea. You take the biggest badasses that you can imagine, drop them into the jungle, and then ask one very simple question. What hunts the hunters? It's simple, elegant, and absolutely terrifying, but somehow, almost 40 years later, people are still playing in that sandbox. From comic books to video games, Predator 2, Prey, Killer of Killers, Badlands, Alien vs. Predator. And Predator fans honestly might be the easiest fandom on Earth to entertain. Hey, what if Predator hunted Vikings? Yes. What if Predator hunted samurai? Absolutely. What if Predator hunted pirates? I'm listening. What if Predator hunted accountants? Okay, hold on. Let's workshop that one. And then there's Kevin Peter Hall, and man, dude, what a legacy. Predator does not work without Kevin Peter Hall. I'm serious, it just doesn't. He made that creature intelligent, confident, curious, cocky, and patient. You can tell when it's enjoying itself, and you can tell when it's frustrated and when it's studying people. And that is incredibly hard to do under pounds of creature effects. Mr. Hall acted his ass off. And also, he's the helicopter pilot who picks Dutch up at the end of the first film. But Sadly, we lost him way too young, but man, what a legacy to leave behind. And while we're talking creature design, flowers to the absolute madman Stan Winston. Apparently, the story goes James Cameron was on a flight with Winston while Winston was sketching concepts for the creature, and Cameron just casually mentioned, "You know, I always wanted to see something with mandibles." And Stan Winston basically said, "Bet." And movie history changed. And thank God, too, because the creature almost looked completely different. A tall, thin, dog-headed looking thing that they scrapped because it just wasn't working in the jungle setting. And the suit was originally built, believe it or not, for Jean-Claude Van Damme, who was actually cast first, with the idea being a fast, agile, almost ninja-like creature. They workshopped it and tested it, and it just didn't work. Standing next to Arnold and Carl Weathers and Jesse Ventura, you needed something bigger, more imposing. So they brought in Kevin Peter Hall instead. And honestly, I don't think we're celebrating Predator turning 39 years old if the original version made it to theaters looking like an angry space grasshopper. No disrespect to Jean-Claude. Love the guy, but it wouldn't have worked. And honestly, I think that's what I appreciate most about Predator. It trusted us. It gave us breadcrumbs, just enough mystery, just enough world building, just enough unanswered questions, and then just let our imaginations do all the heavy lifting. And if I'm being honest, I think that's pretty damn cool. And real quick, before I shut this down for real, can we take a minute and talk about those ending credits? Because I genuinely do not understand them. Also, I love them. Dutch just survived the worst day of his entire existence. His whole team's dead. The helicopter flies away. The music swells, fade to black, perfect, roll credits, except Predator doesn't do that. Predator instead gives us what can only be described as the opening credits to a 1980s sitcom. The whole cast is there, smiling. Carl Weathers is cheesing. Jesse Ventura is cheesing. Bill Duke looks like he's having a really good day. And every single time I watch it, I have the exact same thought. Who approved this? Who watched Predator in 1987 and said, "Hey, you know what this movie needs? Full House energy." And honestly, I wouldn't change it. Not one bit. It's ridiculous and utterly charming and wonderfully 80s. And at this point, it almost feels wrong imagining Predator ending any other way. It's weird, but Predator is weird, and I kind of love that. And honestly, maybe that's why this movie has stayed with me for so long. Because I clearly love this stuff. I mean, I said it at the beginning. I named Ripley after Ellen Ripley. I've got Dutch wandering around my house right now wondering why his dad keeps yelling his name while recording a podcast. Apparently, alien hunters and badass science fiction protagonists have occupied a significant amount of real estate in my brain for most of my life. And you know what? That's okay. Because I think great art does that. Not every movie, not every book, not every video game, but every once in a while, something gets its hooks into you. And it sticks. Sometimes it's a quote, or it's a scene, or it's a specific character. Sometimes you accidentally name a dog after them. Sometimes two. And Predator is one of those movies for me. It sits right up there on my Mount Rushmore of movies, right alongside Aliens, Terminator 2, and Star Wars. The movies that made me fall in love with science fiction, and honestly, I think that's why I wanted to talk about Predator today. No grand thesis, no hidden agenda, no attempt to convince anyone that Predator is secretly Citizen Kane. If I'm being honest, I just think Predator kicks ass, and 39 years later, I still think it kicks ass. And honestly, I think that's probably the highest compliment that I can give it. Not that it's deep or profound, or that it changed my life in some way, just I genuinely love that this movie exists. Because, somewhere out there today, someone is probably watching Predator for the very first time. Maybe they're 12, or maybe they're in their 20s, or maybe they're 38. Maybe they're flipping through streaming services looking for something cool. Maybe some nerd with a microphone finally annoyed them enough to give it a shot. And they're about to go on one hell of a ride. They're going to meet Dutch, Dillon, Billy, Mac, Poncho, Blaine, Hawkins, Anna. They're going to watch a camp raid that still absolutely rocks. They're going to watch Jesse Ventura carrying enough ammunition to invade a small nation. And then they're going to get the rug pulled out from under them. They're going to hear Billy say there's something out there waiting for us, and it ain't no man. We're all going to die. They're going to watch Mac and Dillon make that final stand. They're going to watch Dutch become an angry Austrian caveman. They're going to get to watch an alien hunter get crushed by a giant log. And then they're going to watch Arnold Schwarzenegger sit silently in a helicopter looking like he just experienced the worst Monday in recorded history. And they're going to go through an hour and 40 minutes of absolute bad road. And honestly, that makes me so happy because I know exactly what they're in for. One hell of a good time. And that, my friends, is Predator. And if you made it this far, seriously, thank you. I know there are a million different podcasts, YouTube channels, TikToks, and people competing for your attention these days. So if you chose to spend an hour or so hanging out with me talking about alien hunters, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Halo, weird history, conspiracy theories, cartoons, or whatever random rabbit hole my brain decides to drag us down next, I genuinely appreciate it. So do me a favor. Whether you're on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you're currently listening, be sure to follow the show. Leave a rating and drop a review if you've got just a quick minute. Word of mouth is exactly how independent podcasts grow, and every single one of them matters. And if you're on YouTube, make sure you hit that bell and you subscribe. And then drop a comment and tell me, because I genuinely want to know. When was the first time you clearly remember watching the film Predator? What scene stuck with you? And where does Predator rank on your Mount Rushmore of action movies? And if you're looking for more places to come and hang out between episodes, then do me a favor and come join us over in the lobby. We've got the Facebook group, and we've got the Discord. It's basically old school AIM meets a digital campfire. We've got people talking movies, games, books, history, sharing memes, suggesting future rabbit holes, and honestly, it's become one of my favorite parts of doing this show. Also, episode 100 is sneaking up on us fast, which honestly feels impossible. So I've got another favor to ask you. How did you find Average Joe Nerdcast? And what's been your favorite episode or favorite rabbit hole? What episode hit the hardest? And what do you want to hear us talk about next? Shoot me a message at averagejoenerdcast@gmail.com or drop a comment or come tell me in the lobby. I'd genuinely love to share some listener stories during episode 100. And you know what? Shout out to all of you guys that keep showing up. The folks hanging out in the lobby, the listeners who send me messages, the people who share episodes with their friends, and the people who listen at work, in the car, while gaming, or while walking their dogs. Seriously, you guys are the reason this thing has made it this far. And you know what? It's pretty damn cool. And, most importantly, shout out to my player 2. Thank you for letting me talk about my favorite sci-fi movie of all time. You're the reason any of this happens. As always, I've been Nate, your resident Average Joe, professional rabbit hole explorer, and apparently a guy who's watched Predator enough times to turn a 39-year-old action movie into a 45-minute or so conversation. Take care of yourselves, everybody, and make sure you take care of each other. Stay gold, nerd bold, and remember, the lobby's always open, and I'll catch you on the next one. Hang on a minute. Steve, you've been quiet this entire episode. Are you good?
Okay.
What do you mean there's something watching us from the trees? Oh, hell.
Game over.